About 75% of our clients are Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Wow.
More than 50% are already caregivers. It's between 50-60% are already caregivers. Almost, and I would say about the same amount are low wages or living on less than $500 a month. So we're really talking low wages. And I think it's something like 80%. It's crazy in terms of those who will lose their wages. So when they're traveling for their abortion care, you can imagine they lose pay for 2-3 days.
As you know, in the US, we've been talking a lot about telehealth and mailing abortion pills as the solution to the abortion access crisis we are facing. But in fact, hundreds of thousands of pregnant persons still access abortion care in person in the US every year. So how do they get to that care now that they have to travel long distances? Serra Sippel of the Brigid Alliance will explain to us what they do to help people access that care. Welcome to the famous podcast. My guest today is the fabulous Serra Sippel, who is the executive director of the Brigid Alliance. And we're going to talk about many things, but especially traveling for abortion care in the United States. We know it's become increasingly necessary to travel to access care, given the growing abortion deserts that we face in the US that have resulted from decades of restrictions on abortion care, culminating in the Dobbs decision, the Supreme Court decision in 2022, which abolished our right to abortion. Now, there's been a lot of talk of telehealth and the mailing of abortion pills as solutions to the abortion access crisis in the US. And it's true that increasingly that's how many pregnant persons access abortion care. But the majority of pregnant persons still access abortion care at a clinic today. And that I think is important to underline, whether it's where they receive abortion pills in the clinic or they receive surgical care. And given the wide areas of the US where abortion is no longer accessible, especially in the South, I was wondering, what do these patients do? What does it look in practice? How do the hundreds of thousands of pregnant persons who need abortion care get to that care, physically get to that care? So that's what we're going to talk about today with Serra, because the Brigid Alliance, which she leads, helps make that travel possible by providing, I quote, individualized, all-inclusive travel, financial, and logistical support for people who are forced to travel long distances to access abortion care. Serra, let me introduce her, joined the Brigid Alliance in 2023, right after Dobbs, and has led the organization through significant growth, strengthening and expanding the capacity of the Brigid Alliance to support abortion seekers across the US, Puerto Rico, and beyond. For more than 25 years, Serra has advanced gender equality and sexual and reproductive health and justice in the US and globally. She served as president of Change, the Center for Health and Gender Equity, for more than 15 years. And in 2021, she co-founded Voz Feminista, a global South-led feminist international alliance for sexual and reproductive health and rights and justice. Serra holds a master's degree in religion from the Earlham School of Religion with an emphasis on peace and justice, which has really been her life's work. And in fact, I met Serra when she was at Catholics for Choice a long time ago, fighting for abortion rights way back when, early in her career. We were both, battling the Vatican's regressive positions at that time and still are fighting those.
Françoise, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be reconnected. And yeah, I feel like we went after the Vatican and now it's like the US government. So there's always the powers that we need to consistently hold accountable and confront when it comes to sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice. So thank you for having me.
Yes, it's a real pleasure and an honor. So tell us about the Brigid Alliance. What does it do? I alluded to that, but when was it founded? I understand it's quite a new organization in a way, a newish organization in our space. Tell us about Brigid.
Yeah, thanks, Françoise. So the Brigid Alliance was founded in 2018. So we are newish. We're still young and growing, but we are very much full speed ahead on abortion access. And we were founded because people this was before Dobbs, right? Before the fall of Roe. People did not have access to abortion care in the US. They did not have a clinic close to home that they could go to. And so the co-founders of the Brigid Alliance got together and said, what can we do? And went around speaking and learning from clinics, from abortion funds, and realized the travel support was something that was really important and missing in terms of people being able to access their care. So that's how we were founded, to really address that travel need, that support, to fill that gap, to get people to the care they needed and to get them back home safely and with dignity.
Right. And it's not the only group doing that kind of work. There's other groups, I assume, doing travel support.
Yes, there's a whole network of abortion funds that do provide funding for procedures, as well as some practical support at the local, at the state level. The Brigid Alliance is really the only national abortion support organization that is providing this kind of support with a specialty in that individualized care that is also focusing on people later in pregnancy, where it is harder to get access later in pregnancy, and it's also more expensive. The travel is more complicated. So we're working at the national level to really support people who have more complicated cases and have more complicated and expensive travel needs.
Right, right. And what you're saying also highlights the fact that even before Dobbs, there was a severe problem with access to abortion in many places. I mean, you were founded in 2018, so the problem was already there. Your founders identified that need. Are these the same places that now need additional support, or have new abortion deserts sprung up since Dobbs?
So it's very similar. It's the southern states are the states that have traditionally, even before Roe, have had very different levels of restrictions. So I think while the restrictions have expanded since Dobbs to more states, those southern states was very much already restricted, and people already need for travel. So these kinds of restrictions, it's gestational limits, it is parental notification or parental involvement laws, laws that restrict abortion providers in terms of the clinics. So all of these layered restrictions have made it very difficult for people, mostly in the southern states, to access the care. So that is why Brigid was definitely needed then in 2018, and even now and for the long term, in terms of helping people navigate those restrictions to get to travel to where they can get care.
Right. I mean, it's been an ongoing assault, right, on abortion rights, constantly kind of reducing access, different attacks at state level. So it's not just Dobbs in 2022. I think that's important to know that even then, there was a lot of difficulty in many places in accessing care, and women and pregnant persons needed that support to travel even then. It's just only gotten worse, as you say. Now, when you talk about long distances, what are we talking about? Like, what's an order of magnitude?
So our the average distance at our clients' travel is 1,300 miles round trip.
Wow.
So you can have people traveling from like Florida to New York, or from Texas to Colorado, or, so like you can think about geographically where the abortion access is and just pick a point in a in a state that has restrictions, and that's how far they're traveling. And what's really, I think the importance of what Brigid Alliance is doing and the quality of care that we're providing is we have people who have never left their community, have not even left their state before. And then all of a sudden they're traveling from a rural community in Texas or Florida to New York City or Washington, D.C. or like, so these are cities that are also very expensive to travel to, as we all know when we travel there.
Yeah.
So,
and some of these people have never flown in an airplane, presumably, right?
Exactly. And so our coordinators, we have a team of coordinators, and they're trained to provide tutorials on what to expect when you arrive at the airport. And so we have resources specifically for those who are first-time travelers by plane or train, and what to expect arriving 2 hours before their flight. And so it can be difficult navigating, especially if you have to travel through like Atlanta, one of the largest airports in the country, in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine being a first-time traveler having to navigate that airport. So, and they're there every step of the way. So even when they're in the airport, they can call our coordinator. They can help troubleshoot and talk them through whatever challenges they're facing during their travel.
Yes. And can you describe the full range of things you all do? Like when you talk about wraparound care, how much wraparound care do you provide to ensure that people get to where they need to go?
Yeah. I think this shows how it is individualized, and what it means when we say individually curated travel itineraries is when our coordinators receive the referral and get to know the client, they're learning what's needed in terms of how they can get to the airport even. Mm-hmm. Does Uber even exist? Finding out. So it's that local transportation. It's the long distance transportation. It's the hotel lodging once they get to the city where they're going to have the procedure.
Yeah.
And then they learn also along the way, they don't have childcare. Vast majority of our clients are already parents. So they're helping figure out childcare reimbursement, or if they're traveling with a child, sometimes they're traveling by car. Do they need a car seat? So we've even helped them purchase car seats in order to travel. And you have to know, different states have different laws on car seats even. So even helping them navigate that, it's incredible. And we've done, support for boarding pets, because when you have a pet, when you leave town, you need to have somebody caring for them. And then sometimes we help folks with a companion, if that's desired, especially if it's a spouse or an intimate partner. It could be a guardian or a parent, or even just a close friend, because you can imagine the stress, especially if you're a first-time traveler, wanting to have that extra support with you at a time of crisis. And when you think about all of what we're providing and how we're getting people to their care, that this is a person in crisis. They're being denied care at home. They have to leave their family, their home, their providers. So they're going to a stranger who's going to provide them a healthcare procedure that their provider at home cannot provide them.
Yes, that's right. So you do all of that. I mean, that's incredibly complex and detailed and amazing. Yeah. Wow. I realized as I was writing about abortion pills and the mailing of pills that there's still that need for in-person care. Lately I've been writing about abortion pills, and that's been also something that the abortion rights movement has been promoting as the solution to our crisis in the U.S. Do telehealth and have the pills mailed to you. And self-managed care is a huge movement, as you know, in feminist circles. And I totally stand by it, of course. But then when I looked at the statistics in the US, I realized that about 3/4 of pregnant persons still access care in person. So in some cases, because they don't have choices, there's no telehealth available where they are, or the mailing of pills is complicated for them. but it's still hundreds of thousands of people. That's what we're talking about every year.
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit the profile of some of these people who come to you? Is it people who are later in pregnancy typically, or is it a whole range of situations?
I mean, people are seeking in-person clinic care for all different reasons. Everybody's different. And some people simply prefer to be in a clinic setting with a provider, even if it's to receive medication pills, even for non-surgical procedures. Some people, for various reasons, like it's not safe to receive the pills at home, or it's not safe. They don't have a safe private space for telehealth. So that's one. And then also there are those who they're just later in pregnancy. It's too late because for many reasons. So the medication abortion no longer becomes a choice. And then there's also the time off of work. The vast majority of our clients they lose wages when they're away from work. And so for some medication abortion, that's like, well, you might or might not need more days off of work to recover. Whereas with a surgical abortion, it might be more determined, like they can really plan more what time they need to be away from work. So it's a whole host of different of reasons.
Yeah. And that also highlights the fact that there's not any one unique situation. Like every situation is unique. There's not one profile, a person who comes to see you. It could be a range of reasons why they prefer in-person care, or they would like surgical care because it might be faster for them to be done with, because sometimes with abortion pills, it can take a few days for the procedure to be complete. And then, that might not work for them, or they might not have any place that's private where they can go through the process of abortion with pills, which is a bit like a miscarriage, right? Which is may not be an option for them. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think this is exactly why we need to make sure that these decisions are made between the pregnant person and their provider, so that they understand all of their options, and then they can choose what is best for their situation, for their health or social situation, and that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to abortion. So the kind of choice and voluntarism is really important in these situations, and that while medication abortion and telehealth is really great for a lot of people, we need to make sure it is available for anybody who chooses, but we also need to make sure that surgical abortions are also available for those who choose.
That's right. And can you speak about the impact of gestational limits, viability, what they call viability limits on abortion care? A number of states still have those gestational limits in their law, quite a few states, in fact. And that means that after a certain number of weeks of pregnancy, you cannot obtain surgical care in your own state. And that's still true. I was shocked to find out that it's still true in New York State, for example, that after, 24 or 26 weeks, you need to go to a state that doesn't have those gestational limits to obtain abortion care, even if you're facing a crisis pregnancy, fatal birth defect of the fetus, etc. So that's a real problem. I mean, we should really get rid of these gestational limits, no?
Yes, absolutely. And people are always shocked when we're helping people travel out of New York and out of California too. They're like, but wait, it's about like, no, not for everybody. And I think it's no matter how many exceptions you try to come up with with these gestational limitations, like somebody is always going to be left out. And so it's really important the gestational, they just don't work. They're not necessary either. And it's like, if we truly believe that it is the pregnant person's decision on when and whether to have an abortion, and can include whoever they want in that decision-making process for later care, it's really important that they're doing this in conversation with a doctor. And that should be it. The politicians should not be putting these arbitrary limitations with arbitrary exceptions And we really need to make sure that abortion is accessible to everyone, anyone who needs it.
Right, right. I mean, this is still a remnant of Roe, no? These
Yes.
questions of gestational limits and why is it so difficult to get states to give that up? Don't they understand that, sometimes you have a crisis situation at 30 weeks and, you have to get to care. And now
Yeah.
you're forcing someone in crisis later in pregnancy with potentially some real
Yeah.
complications, potential risk of complications to travel, get on an airplane and travel to get care. Why is that sensible? It's like, it's mind boggling.
It is. And I think, and this is the problem with those who, there's making these political calculations of
Hmm.
we just need to go back to Roe. And it's like, no, Roe was not, it didn't work. It wasn't good enough. And so when we take those who are experiencing the most levels of discrimination, stigma, access to basic health care. These people can't, if there are people who cannot access basic health care, they're not going to be able to access abortion care. And so we cannot, going back to Roe is not an answer. It's not an option.
No.
And I think the problem is we've been allowing politics and doing these compromising in the political realm without putting at the center who are the people who need access to abortion, and our laws need to serve them. And so far in the history of the US, the laws have not supported the ones who need it most.
No. Can you talk a bit about the sort of makeup of your clientele? Is it persons of color, lower income? Like who comes to you? Presumably wealthy women can fund their own travel if they need to, right?
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it kind of reflects the national average, like when you look at the national statistics, but about 75% of our clients are Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Wow.
More than 50% are already caregivers. It's between 50-60% are already caregivers. Almost, and I would say about the same amount are low wages or living on less than $500 a month. So we're really talking low wages. And I think it's something like 80%. It's crazy in terms of those who will lose their wages. So when they're traveling for their abortion care, you can imagine they lose pay for 2-3 days.
Wow.
And so these are the folks who are struggling. About 10% have disabilities. So we are helping people travel, which you can imagine compounds the challenges and barriers in that travel itinerary. And then also about a little less than 10% are self-identify as LGBTQ plus. So I mean, these are the people who already have difficulty accessing healthcare, and it just gets, with the stigma, misinformation, and restrictions on abortion care, it's just compounded so much more.
Right. And these are already people who presumably when they receive healthcare in general, rely on Medicaid, right? And yet we're facing massive cuts to Medicaid at the end of this year, going into 2027. That was done last year, and that big, beautiful budget act that Donald Trump loves so much, but which, enacted Medicaid cuts that will take effect after the midterms. Yeah, so people don't notice. But these same people will be the people who you serve will be also most affected in all of their access to care. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's right. And with the Hyde, we remember the Hyde Amendment.
Yes, 1976.
Yeah. So ever since then, no. And so that's been a fight. But I think only recently, it's been in recent years. I mean, I think, I don't know how long ago, but where it really became, there was a force behind getting rid of the Hyde Amendment. For so many years, it was just, kind of like Roe. This is the law of the land. Hyde Amendment is the law of the land. We saw this internationally with the Helms Amendment. And it was just become accepted. And it's only in recent years where the feminists and other activists have been like, wait a minute, this is not okay. And so that's been a positive turn in terms of the abortion rights movement in the US. but we still have a long ways to go.
Right.
Long ways to go.
And for those who don't know about the Hyde Amendment, in 1976, 3 years after Roe, the devil's bargain was made, right? Which was that, okay, abortion rights are the law of the land, but no federal funding, Medicaid funding will be used to fund abortions across the land. And so states remained free to use their own funds, their own Medicaid funds to support abortion care. And a number of states continue to do that, but it really cut off state support, federal support for abortion care in states that were not willing to provide abortion care, to fund abortion care. So again, the same southern states and, most conservative states, as early as 1976, were curtailing access to care for the poorest, the lowest income, the people already marginalized and vulnerable. Right. So the cruelty has been, being unleashed on people for such a long time. It's, you're right. It's like the frog boiling in the pot. We've gotten this is the way it is. No, it's outrageous that it should be like that. And when you describe your clientele, it really brings home the fact that these people not only have not been able to access abortion care in a humane, decent, rights-based kind of way, but they've also seen their entire access to healthcare attacked across the board, and more so that's coming now. An even bigger onslaught. Where are these clients coming from? The majority of your clients coming from? Are there particular states that are hot spots?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have Florida, Georgia, and Texas, which is not surprising because those are the most populated states with the highest restrictions. In North Carolina and other southern states, so Tennessee, and most of these folks are traveling. When you think of geography, to Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York. Virginia is important. I feel like it's the last southern state standing. Right. If you don't count Maryland as a southern state. But also traveling to New Mexico and Colorado, and a bit to California. So they're traveling from those states with restrictions. Though I do want to make a point about, especially Florida and Georgia, where I've been speaking to folks who are doing similar abortion funds and clinics, is because they have their six-week bans, but within that, there is still legal abortion available for those people. So there are exceptions to the later. And so I'm always cautious in terms of, yes, we're helping people travel who cannot get legal abortions in those states, but it's important to remember that there are people who are there. There are providers who are able to provide legal abortion. So I want to make sure that people understand that it's still difficult. It doesn't make it okay, but I think that it kind of brings more of that reality of people, the timing of knowing that you're having to make that decision quickly. Do I know I'm pregnant? Can I get it? Do I know where to go? And the fear and the stigma around seeking that care. And so that's why I mention it, because I want people to know that there are resources to find that legal care in their states if they're within those limitations.
What you're describing also highlights the complexity, right? For most people, it's very complicated to understand that. Is there, even after 6 weeks, is there an exception in my case that I could, and is there a provider willing to expose themselves, to providing care within that exemption? Yeah. That is, you need a PhD in law. This is unreasonable.
Totally.
Oh my God.
Totally.
Oh, how many clients can you help a month? What is the size of your operations at this point?
Yeah. So our organization, we've grown tremendously over the past 2 years. We're at 36 full-time employees. 20 of those staff are on the client services team. And we have 15 of them are doing that direct face-to-face case management work with clients.
Wow.
And now we're up to the most ever that we're serving, over 200 clients a month.
Wow.
which is the most we've served so far since our founding. So, and we're
You're growing.
looking to increase that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Because the need is there for sure.
totally.
Yeah. And how do they find you? Like, what is the pathway to getting to the Brigid Alliance? Do they have to secure abortion for, like, an appointment somewhere and then come to
Mhm.
you? Or how does this work?
Yeah, so the Brigid Alliance is referral based, so which
Mhm.
means exactly what you're describing. They have somebody makes their appointment at a clinic, and that clinic will contact us. So when the clinic does their intake, they understand what the financial needs are of their clients, and so if somebody presents themselves as needing support, they know. And so the Brigid Alliance, the other thing we've been doing is expanding our partnerships with clinics, so that we can get more referrals so that we can serve more people.
Mm-hmm. And do they get, I mean, abortion funds are also in the mix. Are abortion funds
Mhm.
directing them to you as well? Or,
They do. The
yeah.
abortion funds also refer clients to us, and we work very much in partnership with the abortion funds, especially around procedures. And so, up until last year, the Brigid Alliance, we were founded as only practical support, doing travel support.
Right.
And over the years, what was happening is our clients were working with multiple abortion funds to cobble together funding for the procedure, borrowing money from family, saving money, and it was just a horrible situation. So some of our clients were showing up to the appointment not realizing they hadn't raised all the money for the procedure.
Oh.
And so what Brigid Alliance created a last mile fund, so that when our clients show up to their appointment, if they don't have all of the funding put together, then we're filling that last minute funding gap for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, it's a completely imperfect, inadequate system for funding abortions. And it puts a lot of extra stress and burden on the clients. So we're continuously trying to figure out how do we make it easier, more streamlined for our clients to get the funding. But the abortion funds are critical in this landscape of funding for abortion care.
Right, right. So it's really a puzzle, putting all the pieces of the puzzle
Yes.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Are there barriers to getting your clients to care that you didn't expect? Like when you all are practically moving people, helping people move around the country, and there's things that happen that were not expected.
Yeah, I think top of the list is ice. We did not expect,
Nice.
yes, and the federal troops going into these cities. And so it creates an immense fear, not only, I mean, especially for people who don't have documentation, but even for Black and Brown clients who do have documentation but are terrified. They don't want to be interacting with law enforcement. And so that has created a whole system of we had to adopt a whole new protocol for people going to cities and tracking where the presence of ICE, and rerouting and renavigating trains and planes and like where and so there's so that has created a whole other layer of complexity and stress to our coordinators, to our clients, of course. That's been a big something we were not prepared for. I think also the intensity of climate in the storms. So it is like we know, I mean, pretty much when the storms, hurricane system, the tornadoes. So we have to be ready also to when any inclement weather can happen that's just so severe that it impacts that travel, as we know from ourselves when we travel. But it's that much harder for our clients because sometimes we're having to reschedule appointments.
Right.
So are they going, or we have to reroute them to stay with, a family member, get a hotel room in another city before they can get their appointment. And then finally, the fake clinics. I mean,
Oh,
I would say we always knew they were there,
say
but
more about that.
I would say the proliferation of fake clinics. So as we've lost clinics like Planned Parenthoods, we've seen a rise in these fake clinics. So our clients to understand, what gestation are they in pregnancy so that they can go to make the appointment at the clinic that can see them at that gestational age. So they were getting kind of bogus, sonograms that were not accurate. And so we've now added ultrasounds to coverage to our clients so that if they have to travel to another city in their state to get an ultrasound before their appointment, we will cover that. And so that is, and also when they go back home, because they're going back home to reproductive health deserts, we're now also supporting them with contraceptive care. If they, after their appointment, to go back home, if they want and choose to have contraceptive care, we want to make that available to them because so many of them are going back home and they don't have access to it there.
When we get out of this awful mess, and we will, right?
I love your optimism. I love your optimism.
We're not going to take this.
Yeah.
Like, this is unbelievable. I mean, if you think about it, this kind of series of obstacles and hardships put in the way of people accessing life-saving and health safeguarding care is just unbelievable. Like, we can't go on. But so one day, soon, what would you wish for based on all that you've learned in your work? What should be the ideal situation? We've already said we're not going to go back to Roe. Roe was problematic. What do we wish for?
Yeah. Well, at the Brigid Alliance, our vision is that abortion care is borderless, burden-free, and accessible to all. That is our vision. That's the hope. And honestly, we are operating, anybody in the abortion care landscape ecosystem sees that we're operating within a shadow health system.
Yeah.
It's really outrageous and absurd when you think about it. And so what needs to happen, my hope is, and I do believe we will get there eventually, is we need abortion part of our basic health care. And just it's accepted as that is when you get healthcare access, abortion is included. And we need universal access. We need everybody to have access to healthcare in this country. It needs to be subsidized. We need to get no more cobbling together of all these different funds for a specific healthcare procedure is absurd. So we need the procedures to be subsidized by the government within a universal healthcare system. And that is, we will get there. Maybe not in our lifetime, Françoise, but I do believe like that will happen someday.
If people want to help and support the Brigid Alliance, what can they do?
Well, for number one, obviously, you can go to our website at brigidalliance.org to donate. I think the majority of our funding does come from individual contributions, which are really critical to the lifeblood of the organization, so we can serve more and more people. I think for people in the U.S., I always say vote. Yeah. We have midterms coming up. Yeah. And just get out there and vote. Get your family members. Don't assume that your family and friends are voting. Get them to vote too. This is really a critical time. And I think, and talk about abortion, talk about later care, talk about the need for surgical care and for choices that people need to have access to information and choices and to choose when and what kind of abortion care they want. One is not better than the other. And so we really need to understand that. And also that there's always going to be a need for later abortion care, no matter what. So, so talking about that as well, it's really, we need to really spread the word within our families, communities, the need for abortion care, and especially later in abortion, later in pregnancy.
And Sarah, in closing, can you say what this means to you, all this work you're doing? What does it mean to you personally, professionally?
Well, Françoise, my career has been all things sexual reproductive health, rights, and justice, and mostly internationally. Yeah. So coming to Brigid, it's almost like a homecoming for me to really pivot and focus on the U.S. and kind of bring not only the lessons learned internationally in terms of feminists who have made just enormous progress in abortion access, whether it's sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, Latin America. And so taking that, I'm so inspired by that. And so if I can take that inspiration and courage and focus on the US to bring some of that in, I think it's really amazing. And I think it's as much as this is so really horrific. I feel like this is a nightmare of what's happening in the United States at this time. In hindsight, it's kind of, it was predictable. Like, right, we could have predicted this because Roe was not enough. The Hyde and Helm, we were bound to be in this situation someday, and here we are. And so I think we have, so for me and my career to be in the US doing this work at this time and having really concrete just impact on people's individual lives and getting people the pregnancy outcomes that they want, that they desire, and that they're able to go back home and continue with their lives, being renewed, and opportunities that are just having that kind of impact on people, and knowing that also there's also, like, me going after the Vatican in my career, it's like it's being subversive. This is a subversive job to say, like, no, you're not going to stop people from getting abortions. We're going to keep getting that abortion care.
That's right. That's right. Well, wow. Thank you for your courage and your bravery and your incredible logistics and many, many thanks to your team who are doing amazing work, like the goddesses' work, right? It's needed. It's unfortunate. You would like to work yourself out of a job if you could.
Yes.
But thanks for staying the course and really holding the line. It's just very inspiring, and I'm very moved. And thank you for taking the time to tell us about your work. Women's solidarity is just something beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Françoise.
A luta continua. Thank you.